No, college football is up and running. Jason Parkin and getting down to the nitty-gritty. Big games coming up. Time for Pigskin Preview. Larry Cotlar, Tony Atzeni hanging out with us once again to give us the showdown and rundown, I should say, of what's happening. Well,
of course, the Hawkeyes are back in action. They had the week off, which came at a very fortuitous time.
Yeah.
C.J. Beathard, a little bit hobbled in the Northwestern game. They say he's still not 100%, but he'll be better. Obviously, a week off, you heal a little bit more. Akram Wadley will still be the top running back. Ran for 240 yards against Northwestern when he replaced Jordan Canzeri, had the high ankle sprain. And LaShawn Daniels is back, and he had a high ankle sprain. I was looking, all these injuries, high ankle sprains. But, it'd be nice to have LaShawn back. But then, obviously, Akram Wadley will get the call. But the thing about Maryland, they've lost 4 in a row. They fired their coach in midseason, Randy Edsall. Mike Locksley is the head coach right now. But they turn the ball over. They have a pretty good quarterback in Perry Jones, but he's more of a runner, and he's been getting picked off. In fact, I'm going to look and see. He ran for 294 yards the last 2 games, but he's also thrown 6 picks, 6 interceptions in the last 2 games. So it's a Desmond King alert. But they turn the ball over a lot, and that's the problem that they have. And so I would expect Iowa to win this game again. I don't think Tony and I were talking about this, that look, they're 7-0 right now. People are starting to talk about them. And do you worry about them getting the big head? I don't think so. I really don't buy into that at all.
Well, before the season, I was talking to Larry. I told my friends who are supposed Hawkeye fans that jumped off the ship because of their 6-win season and how they always achieve compared to what they expect them to do. I said they're going to at least win 8 and maybe 10 this year. Yeah. Man, I was way off because they're going to win at least 10 and maybe 12 this year during the regular season. And this Maryland game, even though with those injuries, Iowa's going to probably protect a lot of those players because they should blow this team out. Yeah. And you're going to see a lot of those guys, even Beathard, probably taking some time on the bench and getting other people in there if they can control that football game early. I think that's what they'd like to do, get out to a big lead. And then
the first quarter is going to be crucial.
Be able to continue licking their wounds a little bit and preparing for the upset watch game, which Larry and I talked about, and that's Indiana on the road, because Indiana's capable.
I'm more worried about them than I am about Nebraska.
I am too. But again, you always want to take a team out when you're supposed to beat them, and Iowa's supposed to beat Maryland. You don't want them hanging around. No. You don't want them in the ball game thinking by halftime, let's say it's a 7-point game, oh, we can pull this thing out. You don't want that.
You want to take them out soon.
You want to take them. You want to step on them early. So hopefully the Hawks will do that. Then we head up to Ames tomorrow night, and it's going to be chilly. I think you said it was about 52 or something like that.
Kickoff. Yeah, wind won't be bad.
So this is going to be interesting. And I was talking to Tim Brando, was on my show last night, and one of the things, and Tim's doing the game for Fox. And the thing about Texas, remember we had them dead and buried a few weeks ago, and then they stunned Oklahoma, and then they beat K-State like a drum. Well, their defense is getting better. They've been limiting teams now defensively, and in fact, they held both Oklahoma and Kansas State to less than 300 yards of offense in each of those games.
Well, if Iowa State plays the way they played the second half of last week's game, they're going to beat Texas.
I'm actually picking Iowa State to win.
You should.
I am.
Because it's going to happen.
Okay.
All right.
Well, if you tell me, then
I'm telling you now.
I'll believe it. All right.
Okay.
Well, Lanning's going to be the quarterback. He was 12 of 17, 144 yards. He's a poised kid. And Tony, you know him, of course, playing in Ankeny with under Jerry Pizzetti. I mean, he is a poised young man who can run the football. I know he did a lot of that, and we think of him now as a passer, but I mean, he ran the football a lot in high school.
I got to think the coaching change had something to do with the quarterback change. I think they were bumping heads about who should be there, and Richardson kept getting it as a senior. Nothing against Richardson. He did what he could do, but I think this coaching change had a lot to do with what finally was happening with Rhodes getting his Ankeny boy, the quarterback, Lanning into that starting lineup, and he showed what he could do in that second half.
Now, you saw a lot of Lanning when he was playing for Ankeny, right?
Yeah, and he's just one of those athletes, and sure,
did he kick too? Someone,
he could do whatever you want.
All right, we should have used him last week then. So anyway,
but yeah, he's just a tough kid, and like Larry said, he had to learn how to be more of a passing quarterback. He didn't have to under the Jerry Pizzetti system at Ankeny at that time, and so, but he's just a good athlete. You knew eventually he was going to be able to grasp everything, and sure, there might be some plays he has to take off the playbook, but that shouldn't mean much. The biggest thing for Iowa State is their running game's finally going. I don't care how good a quarterback you are. If you can't show that you can run, defenses are going to peel their ears back, and they're going to get your numbers. So the Iowa State running game's been the biggest thing. It's helped that offense get better as the season went on.
And the one thing, Tim Brando, I asked him what he saw as the keys to the game, and remember how we talked about Iowa, Maryland? with the early start.
Right.
He feels exactly the same way about this Iowa State-Texas game. The team that sets the tempo early, especially Iowa State, like you mentioned, played well in the second half. If they can carry some of that over from the Baylor game, get off to a good start at home, it's homecoming, you get the crowd into it, that'll help a lot. But if Texas comes out, scores a couple of quick touchdowns, you don't want that to happen.
Right.
So, but I'm going with the upset like you. I'm going with the Cyclones because this is a winnable game for them. I believe it's a winnable game. You've got Northern Iowa taking on South Dakota at the Dome, and it's at 1 o'clock. And 2 straight home games now for the Panthers. And I was asking Colin McDonough, who is the sports information director over at Northern Iowa, I said, what about their chances of making the playoffs? He says, you know, our schedule's better the second half of the season. It was a killer in the first half. But they come off a win over South Dakota State 10-7, which they played great defense. Ooh. And now South Dakota beat North Dakota State. They snapped their 26-game home field winning streak. Wow. So they're a good team. But I like Northern Iowa usually at home. I really do. And the kid Aaron Bailey last week ran for 169 yards and a touchdown. I always kind of like the Panthers at home.
So the Dome team advantage, huh?
Yeah, I think if they win out the season, they're going to probably get back in the playoffs because even those losses were against rated teams and they were hard-fought losses. They weren't blown out. So their schedule will put them back into the playoffs based on how good the Missouri Valley Conference is in football. I mean, it's brutal.
It's really good.
Yeah.
Now, Drake had a great win last week, which was fun to do with Chuck Reed on 1350 ESPN. There's a cheap, shameless plug if you ever heard one.
That's all right.
Got to know where to find it,
There you go. Well, and they play at noon, as you can see. Morehead State's the #1 offensive team in the league, PFL. Drake is the #1 defensive team in the PFL. Last week, Drake came a 24-14 deficit against Jacksonville, which is undefeated. Came back, won the game 28-14. A big reason for that was John Huguenin, who was huge. That's his nickname. He had 10 tackles in the first half, and we were talking at halftime. I'm like, wow, that's, for a lot of people, that's a good game.
Right.
He had 10 more in the second half. Wow. He was FCS Defensive Player of the Week. He had 20 tackles and 2 forced fumbles.
How could you not be? Yeah.
I know. 20 tackles and 2 forced fumbles.
That's impressive.
And Andy Rice had, I think, 4 touchdown passes as they came back in that game. I mean, it was a terrific effort by Drake. So, hopefully the Bulldogs can go on the road and get their first road win because they haven't had that this year. They've won every game at home, have lost every game on the road, and they need this one. And then, of course, Grandview, which, as I've already predicted, they're going to go on and win the NAIA title for the second time in 3 years. Mike Woodley probably doesn't want to hear that.
So is it just another check mark according to the Cop Man?
There you go. Okay. Well, they're #4. They keep climbing. They had that early loss to Baker, and they just keep winning and climbing and climbing. Now, it doesn't matter. The numbers don't matter. It's getting the playoffs and win. But they've got Culver Stockton out of, if I remember correctly, Canton, Missouri. I believe that's right up the highway. It's just, the highway goes down to St. Louis.
Right, right,
yeah.
All right.
Just across the border.
Kind of north of Hannibal there.
A little bit of a road trip.
That's right. So don't worry about Culver Stockton.
Yeah. All right.
They got it.
So there you have it. There's the scoop, both high school and collegiately. Thank you, gentlemen. Well done as